record. Now, in this video, we are going to clarify the concept of how to use an array in Java program with a simple demo program. And in order to do that, I have already initialized a class called demo array, and inside that class I have already defined the main function, that is public static void main and then string args, and then inside this main function I will write the code for explaining the array. Now, for the easy understanding and for the sake of convenience, I will stick to the same example that I have used in my PowerPoint slide. So let us start writing the code. So first, what I am going to do, I will uh, declare and initialize the array. Declare and initialize, or let's call it populate the array. And as I have mentioned before, there are two different ways to do that. So let us focus on the first way of doing. So the first way is I want to initialize and declare and initialize in the same line. So the first way is basically declare and initialize the array in same line of code. So how to do that? In order to do that, first you have to type the data type of the array, like what type of data element you want to store. And in this case we are going to store all the integer numbers, so it is int. And after this int you have to specify this opening and closing box bracket. This opening and closing box bracket is saying the Java compiler that it is going to be an array, not a normal variable. And after that you have to specify the name of the array variable, which is array1, and that is it. And after that, the assignment operator in order to initialize the array and then populate the array at the same time. So in order to initialize the array, as I have mentioned in the previous video, you have to use another keyword called new. This new keyword is basically saying that, well, this is going to be an entirely brand new array called array1, and that is it. And after that you have to again use the same thing as in here. So let me just copy paste it. So new int, then followed by this opening and closing box bracket. So this is how you are saying that, well, this is going to be a brand new integer array to the Java compiler. And after that, now it is the time to actually populate the array with some elements. So what you can do is, in order to populate the element, you have to use first you have to enclose all the elements that you want to store inside an opening and closing box bracket. And now inside this opening and closing box bracket, you have to store all the elements that you want to store, that is, let's say 5, 9, 22 and 6, what we have used in our previous example, in a comma separated fashion, as you can see in here. And finally, of course, a semicolon. And whenever you will write this 5, 9, 22 and 6 like this, it will automatically assign 5 in the index 0 of array 1, then 9 in the index 1 of array 1, 22 in the index 2 of array 1, and 6 in the index 3 of array 1. So this is how you can declare, initialize and populate the array, everything in the same line. So let us try to run this program and let us see whether it is an acceptable syntax or not. So here, as you can see that, well, this is an acceptable syntax because there is no error. And just in order to give some kind of printing, some message. Let us write down system.out.print syntax accepted. So let's say syntax accepted. And so if there is an error, it will throw an error, otherwise it will print syntax accepted. So now let us run it once again and let us see whether the syntax is accepted or not. And you can see the syntax is accepted. Now the second way. So this is here actually declare initialize, and let's say initialize and as well as populate the entire array in the same line. Now there will be a second way, which is going to be like declare and initialize a new array in one line, and then basically populating the array separately afterwards. All right, so this is what we are going to see now. Now in order to do that, what you have to do, the first thing is very similar. So declaration, it should contain this line. So the left hand side of the assignment part, what we have used before, will remain same for declaring. So here I am just copy pasting it. So int followed by opening and closing box bracket followed by this array name, that is array1, and that will remain same. And when you will declare and initialize the new array in the same place, not only this, this part will also remain same, that is new int, then this opening and closing box bracket and followed by a semicolon. So this part remains same, but there will be a small difference that we need to know. As I have mentioned in my previous slide, previous video, that when you are populating the array in the same line, you are automatically saying the Java compiler what is the content of the array. So you really do not need to explicitly mention the size of the array, that is how many elements you want to store. But here, since you are dividing this declaration and initialization in one line and then populating the array separately, you have to explicitly mention what is the size of the array, that is how many elements you want to store in the array. And in our case, I want to store 4. So this is 4. So here so this is the only difference from in here and here. Everything same, but here you have to specify the size of the array, that is 4 is the size of the array, and you can change it according to your need. So now whenever your declaration is done, so let us see whether this is an acceptable syntax or not. So let me print this syntax accepted over here. And since I am using this array1 as the same variable name, so this may throw some error. So let me comment out the first way and let us just focus on this part. So now let me run it. If it prints syntax accepted once again, you can understand that, well, this is an accepted syntax. So let me run this program, and here as you can see, so this is also an accepted syntax. So we have successfully declared the array, but now it is the time to so let's call it declaration syntax accepted. All right, and after that, now it is the time to initialize, or let's say populating the array. So population of the array, you can do it using like this. So let's say this array name, then followed by inside this opening and closing box bracket, you have to write the index name, index value, that is 0, then equals, then the the number that you want to store, that is 5. I want to store 5 in array 1 index 0. Then it should be r, and then next array 1, then index 1, I want to store 9. Then in array 1 index 2, I want to store 22. And then finally, this is array 1 index 3, I want to store 6 in here. So let us see whether this syntax is also accepted or not. So let's say this is populating, let's call it populating, and let's call it declaring and initializing. Syntax accepted. So this is just to separate and show you that whether both the things are accepted or not. So let me just run it, and let's see whether all the proper messages are printed or not. And well, there is an error because I have used two equal symbol, which has an entirely different meaning in Java. So let me I just corrected it, deleted, so just array 36, and now let me run it once again. And as you can see, well, these declaring and initializing syntax accepted, and then everything is printed in the same line. So let us put a line break just to show you differently. And here, if I run it, so as you can see, declaring and initializing syntax accepted, because this is okay. And the populating syntax is also accepted, because this is the correct way of populating elements in array. So these are the two ways how you can declare and populate the array. Now, well, just for the sake of clarity, you can use the same syntax for many different type of elements. So for example, let us say this time, instead of storing an array, instead of storing some integer, let us try to populate it with some characters. So let us see the first way of doing the thing. Let me comment it out. The second way here, and let us again focus on the first way of doing the things. And this time, instead of saying integer, I am using character. And here, whenever you will do character, you have to change this thing also to character. And instead of integer, let us try to put some character variables. So let me delete this. And well, whenever you want to put some character, as you know, you have to put it inside opening and closing single quote. All right. So like this, let's say A, then the next character will be, let's say, small b, then let's say the next character will be something like dollar symbol, then the next character will be something like 7, although it is a number, but since it is enclosed inside this single quote, it will be taken as a character. So let us see whether this syntax, the first way, whether it works for the character array also or not. So let us run it, and let us and as you can see, well, I forgot to comment out the last line. Sorry about that. And now let us run it, and let us see whether it prints syntax accepted or not. And as you can see, the character array also can be declare, initialize, and populate in the same line using the same fashion that we have used for integer. Just you have to change the int to char, and instead of the actual integer, the values, you have to change it to actual character values. And the same way, so this is the first way, and the same thing you need to do for the second way also. So let me again uncomment the second way in here like this. So let us again, so instead of just integer, let us change it to char here, and instead of this int, let us change to char, and instead of putting some real numbers, let us put the characters in here. So it should be a, then the next one it should be b, then the next one it should be dollar symbol, and the next one, as I have written above, it should be it should be 7, like this. So let us see whether this syntax work for the second way. Syntax works for the character array also or not. So let us run this program, and as you can see, the same syntax is working for the character array also. So this is how you can initialize, declare, initialize, and populate the array in Java program.